Hello, this is Rich Lavens of Watlow, and today we're going to dive into a Eurotherm nanodac, specifically how to build a part number and what all those fields mean. I'll get questions like, "Hey, there's I think 17 fields in a nanodac. I don't know what I need, and could you help me walk through this?" So we get this question enough that I thought a tutorial might be proper. So here we have our Eurotherm nanodac, and it's called a recorder controller. The nanodac, right out of the box by default, always has a recorder feature, so that's really nice. Um, Other options are called out by this model code. So let's drop down to the model code. And first thing we start out with is the controller. Well, it's obviously a nanodac. So nanodac is the basic product. The first field is our supply voltage. So supply voltage, you want to make sure you get that ordered correctly up front. So we have two options, VH, which is voltage high, VL, which is voltage low. The VH is a 100 to 230 volt AC powered unit. The VL is a 24 volt AC or DC power unit. If you get that wrong, there's nothing we can do about it. It has to be a new controller. So that is one field you want to get correct up front. The controller option is in field 2. So we have X, which is our default. Again, recorder only. But if you want PID control, we can call out the letter C, which gives us 2 PID control loops. There's also a letter A for an advanced control loop. So the advanced control loop is a cascade loop, which also includes the 2 PID loops. So again, field 2 is a software thing. So if you forgot to order, one of those features, we can unlock that with what we call a feature passcode. The third field is a programmer. So the default is X. So assuming you have the control loops or the advanced control loop, now it's just going to be what we call a single set point controller. So I want to control to 500 degrees. I come to the nanodac, I enter 500 degrees, and it goes to 500 degrees to control. So single set point. The P option for the dual programmer allows you to do like a stair step or a profile. So I want to go to 500 degrees in 30 degrees per minute. And once I get there, I want to sit for 45 minutes. Then I want to ramp up to 600 degrees and sit for 2 hours. So instead of somebody looking at their watch and coming over, entering new set points, we can develop a profile or a recipe, it's commonly called as well. And we can actually store several different profiles within the nanodac. Again, very popular feature. If you neglected to order that up front, that's just a software unlock. Field 4, this is an important one, probably more important than almost anything in here. This is our output options 1, 2, and 3. So if you look here, our default is logic relay relay, or LRR. Now the codes kind of tag along with the description, LRR, logic relay relay, logic relay DC, and so forth. This is a fixed hardware build. If you ordered LRR and you wanted RDD, you're kind of stuck. That's not something we can retrofit in the field. It would have to be a new controller. So make sure field 4 is what you want it to be up front. Let's dive into that a little bit more here. So this is the back of our standard nanodac. So you always have on the right-hand board here 4 input options, and those can be configured as follows. So we could have thermocouples, we could have RTDs, we could have voltage, 0 to 10 volt, and that's scalable, or 0 to 20 milliamp, also scalable. So this is the standard unit. So this is what we call our universal process inputs. You get these. In the middle here, we have a USB. That's always present. You can use that for uploading and downloading recipes, storing data, uploading, downloading configurations, and a couple other things. But that's always there. We always have an RJ45 port that talks Ethernet, Modbus, TCP, IP. There's some other options that we'll get to, but that's always there. We always have a digital input across LB and LC that can be set up for a variety of different functions. And we always have two Form A relays with a shared common. So they work independently, but there is a shared common. This is the board over here that field 4 calls out. So here we have a logic, a relay, and a relay. That's the default. This LA and LC, regardless of what hardware option you select for 1, 2, and 3, you always have another contact closure input. And again, that can be set up for a variety of functions. So here we have our default, logic, relay, relay. If I wanted logic, relay, DC, there's logic, relay, DC, so L, R, D, right there. So again, that's how that's kind of called out. Application blocks. So application blocks are something above and beyond what the normal controller might be used for. So maybe you're doing carbon control. If that is the case, you would order ZC, so a zirconia block. Relative humidity is RH, and ST is a sterilizer function. So again, field 5, if you forgot to order that, well, we can always unlock that with a feature passcode. Field 6 is the communication protocol. TS is the standard. That's the TCP/IP I mentioned earlier. But we can also enable TM, which is a Modbus master controller, ES, which is Ethernet IP, client server. Now, don't get Ethernet IP mixed up with TCP/IP. Ethernet IP is the Allen Bradley protocol, so we can actually talk to an Allen Bradley PLC pretty easily. We have an option for BACnet or BACnet master, and then lastly, a combination of Modbus master and Ethernet IP. The bezel. This is another one you probably want to get correct up front as it's a hardware thing. So we have our standard silver SV, and we have a washdown option. So let's pop up to the top and I'll show you that. So this is our standard controller. You can see the little rubber push buttons here. That's how most nanodacs are ordered. However, if you have a washdown situation or you're worried about contaminants getting in behind the buttons, the nanodac can be ordered with a membrane-style keypad. So just a nice, smooth keypad, easy to wipe down, and again, eliminate some of your concerns if you're in that sort of an application. So come back here. That's field 7. Field 8, toolkit blocks. Our standard controller comes with none. Think of toolkit blocks as features and functions you may want from a logic standpoint. So we have various logic blocks. We have counters, timers, totalizers. So I'll put a list of what you get when you order a toolkit block at the end of the video. But again, field 8 is completely a software thing. So if you forgot a toolkit block and you want it, well, we can unlock it for you. Field 9, the operating language. That's pretty self-explanatory. English, French, German, Italian, or Spanish. OEM security. By default, we have no OEM security, but an example of where you might want OEM security is, say you're an OEM and you spent a few days or hours doing a unique configuration that you don't really want anyone to share. You want to keep that customer coming back to you. We can enable OEM security. Thereby, now you would need a password to go in and see what that intellectual property you developed was. So even Eurotherm can't get in without that password. So again, that's what it's used for. Fields 11 and 12 are labels and specials. If the volume is sufficient, we can do some custom labeling for you. So take the Eurotherm label off and put XYZ company. Maybe even change the colors a little bit. Specials, again, if you have a special build, maybe you developed that intellectual property and you just want to have us populate that for you, we can do a special hardware and or software build. Again, we don't do it onesie twosie, but if it's justified, we can certainly talk to you about that. Field 13, dual input channels. Now, previously I said the recorder or the nanodac always comes with 4 channels, but let me dive into that a hair more. So if you're using a thermocouple or you're using an RTD, you're limited to 1 input per slot. However, if I take this, if it's a DC type of input, I can split that channel. So now all of a sudden I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I'm doing is I take the negative leg off the DC input, tie it to 3 minus, and then I can split the positive legs across 3I and 3 plus. I can do the same on field 4. So let's do it with a voltage here, or milliamp. So again, now all of a sudden I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I can do that. So as long as it's a DC input, I can split the channels and get up to 8 inputs. That's what this is showing you here. This is another thing that we can unlock with software. So if you discover I'm one channel short, as long as it's a DC input, we can open up another channel for you. Now, I just got done telling you we didn't have dual thermocouple support, and that is a true statement. At one point, we offered it, and for various good reasons, we no longer will do this for you. Unfortunately, it hasn't been taken out of our spec sheet. So you can see I blocked that out. So if you try to order dual thermocouple support, you can still do it in the model number. However, when it gets to our order entry, it's going to get flagged and kicked back to you as not valid. So you can draw a big X through field 14. Field 15 is our batch option. So again, nanodac's always a recorder. For the most part, when you power it up, it starts recording. When you power it down, it stops. So how do I find a specific run within, the recording? That's where the batch comes in handy. I can assign lot numbers, part numbers, certain unique identifiers to that run. So now, 2 months from now, when your customer comes back and says, I want to see how you ran my batch, you can go back in and do a query on part number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will pop up just that snapshot in time where that run was made. Very handy feature, very handy. Again, field 15, if you forget to order it, that's a software unlock. Field 16, auditor full, 21 CFR 11. That's kind of a pharmaceutical or FDA requirement that you have auditor full. You will know if you need that. The standard option does not have it. If you want it, you would order a full in field 16, and we would unlock auditor full. And the last field is 17, steam flow calculations, kind of the same thing. The standard is none, and if you're doing steam flow, you will probably know that. We can unlock the steam mass flow calculator. Going back to our nanodac. So again, over here, as you order features, what you're going to see here is different folders will open up depending on the options you selected. So here's our batch folder. So I've enabled that. Here's our advanced control loop. Down here, the saturated steam. If you didn't order the options, you would not see these folders. And then the toolkit block down here gets you logic blocks, a mux block, math blocks, timer blocks, so real-time events. So again, some of those toolkit blocks, if you need them, again, we can just unlock those for you. I think that's all I needed to say. I hope you find this video helpful, but please reach out to us and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.